This conference will now be recorded.
Y'all good down there? Jonathan, y'all? All right. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Mr. Weaker, anything you need to add?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, but before you get in, I have a point of
Please, by all means.
Livingston, or Bruce, excuse me, everybody calls him Livingston. Bruce and Alan and maybe even Kim and some of this, they've gone through, and I need to lean back, they've done some adjustment on microphones. So I just want to mention to the board and to the public, generally I think about 12 inches away, you're safe, you're picked up. If you're speaking, power on. If you're not, power off. Pretty standard stuff now, but I appreciate them going through. As you recall at the joint meeting, there was a lot of interference and microphones were squeaking and not very pleasing on the ears. So I appreciate IT, and we will try and see if this works. If not, we will continue to fine tune. But Mr. Chairman, upon that, I have no additions, sir, to the agenda.
All right.
Jonathan, do you want to add is it time to add the annual Christmas dinner yet to the agenda?
You want to do that under information and correspondence? Christmas. The only one I've got that I'd like to move, I know we've talked about it a bunch of times and putting it at the end, but can we put Leathers Lane right behind public comment? Because we know everybody's going to have comments about that. We might as well address it, and then let's move on with our business. Do we have any trouble with that?
Mr. Chairman, just so I'm tracking for the agenda, if I may go back, the Christmas luncheon discussion, do you want that as 7A? And then...
No, let's do that as 9A.
I mean, 9A?
Yeah, and we're shifting 10 up there behind public comment.
Up or to the second public comment?
No, up.
Up, okay.
Let's deal with it and move on. Anybody have any sweat with that? Anybody else have anything we need to add to the agenda? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, as always, let's start with public comment. Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Dana Squire, live here in Madison. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment about an upcoming item on the agenda about the transfer station. I've been doing some research about recycling, and I was curious to find out about the disposition of our recycled materials, and got in touch with County Administrator Jonathan Weekly and Mooney Fraser, and they sent me the contact information for Carl Thornhill at Updike. And Updike Industries, as you know, has our contractor managing the transfer station and our recyclables. And the bottom line is that I hope that you all will entertain the idea of getting other proposals for contractors for this. When the contract comes up for renewal next August, and you have 180 days, either party, for making any changes. I've had some really difficult times trying to get Updike to respond to questions that I have. First of all, their representative, Carl Thornhill, who's on our website as the county contact for any recycling questions, refused to talk to me. And I had to submit my questions through Jonathan and have my answers submitted through him. This took from May 17th to August 30th, in what could have been less than a half-hour conversation. His answers were pretty curt and not forthcoming, and in fact, some of the answers to his questions were that that's proprietary information. When I asked what happens to our recyclables when the cardboard leaves the recycling station, or when the plastics, I had questions about commingled plastics, and he just said this information is proprietary. And I just think that it shouldn't be proprietary, that we have the right to know where these things go. I'm concerned because it's the running of the transfer station is a $700,000 item on the fiscal year 24 budget. And we also, I cannot get any information about recycling plastic at the transfer station. There's a sign that says recyclable plastics 1 through 7. Well, based on research that I've done, it's unlikely that 1 through 7 gets recycled. That happens hardly anywhere because some of those things just are not recyclable, or it doesn't pay to recycle them. And so we are taking the time to, separate out these things. And I don't at all have a secure feeling that they're being recycled, because some of them aren't recyclable. But I can't find any more information on that. So it's not just the money, which is a lot, which we're paying for with our taxes, but also our time and our intentions to help keep things clean. It's just not happening with the way things are going now. And I don't want to waste my time putting things in recycling that are just going straight to the landfill or going to be burned or whatever. I'd rather know, and at this point, I'm not allowed to know. So whether or not, we use Updike again, or if you all get another proposal that you like, I just hope that you will put in the contract that these operations should be transparent to we people who are paying for them.
Thank you. All right, other public comment. And this would be the time if we've got Leathers Lane. I need to make a phone call to Mr. Rigby, who can't be present. Bear with me a second. Yeah.
Okay, I'm off.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 7, 2. Dial. All right. Yeah. I'm not calling you, Chuck.
Reached. Jackie and Deb.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if they were anticipating a later start.
Can you see anybody on there? All right, neither of those are Mr. Rigby. All right, other public comment on, is there any public comment on Leathers? All right. All right, any other public comment in general? All right, let's move on to 10A. We all have in front of us the case that was from, 2017? Mr. Weekly, what would you like to add to this?
Well, what was before you, Mr. Chairman, was information that Mr. Whitby dropped off today, it appears from my view, it's a former decision or pending, or the past pending litigation that was filed when we first entered the Leathers Lane matter, discovery of county-owned earth underlying the road. Mr. Whitby, though, has asked for that to be circulated. He feels maybe not all neighbors have that information. However, that does not appear to be its entirety because, for example, Exhibit A that's referenced in that document is not there. There are some photos. I initially requested this to be placed on the agenda just because we've had a couple of complaints on two different things, tree trimming, road maintenance. Mr. Wright and I took a visit during the tree trimming. We have discussed that, had issued a letter back to the complainant that while, that was not a minor infraction, but we appreciate it was done so in a clean manner. Debris was cleaned up and not left on the road, so we did not view that as a something that caused destruction. I think it speaks to the spirit of paragraph 10, which encourages residents to kind of continue that type of work between the property lines and the road. The most recent complaint, Mr. Whitby, I have photos of this, is he doing unapproved work on the road, such as York raking the road, various spots. He's had some soil or some material brought up to a vacant lot. He owns two lots at Leathers Lane. One he resides, the other is vacant, and he has had some dirt or some type of compost brought up there and has spread that at the edge of the road. And then recently I have photos which I asked him to remove these items of, I think it was a golf cart and a rototiller left on the shoulder. I've asked about one, I emailed him to remove those items. I also asked why are these items being put there. He has stated that, residents continue to drive in that area. He has provided some video of that. However, whether you're driving over there or not, we don't want, we've spoke about this in the past about putting obstructions. We've issued, I think, past cease and desist letters to that fact of not placing things out there. So I wanted to bring this to the board's attention. Yes, two different activities, both unapproved, but a range of examples of an activity that occurred, things were done, but in a clean manner. Another is continuing ongoing maintenance. Your position paper, and you all have the October 11, 2022. My apologies, I will recognize to the board, I did in error circulate a March 11, 2022 position paper here recently, although the other one had been circulated prior. I have corrected that and ensured that that resident has the current, which is on the screen. So I need to bring it up to the board, get some feedback if there's any change in the position paper or any direction you wish to go. I administer, or attempt the best possible to administer that position paper, but when you have unapproved activity, whether it's done so in a clean manner or continuous and leaving things in a right of way, this can be a continuous cycle, in my opinion, unless maybe we take a different look at this.
Well, the golf cart's new. All right. The court case we have basically just identifies the road, saying that it's our property. I think we should go ahead and send cease and desist letters to both parties, even though the activity has ceased at this point on one of those activities, because that is what our position paper said, is that they've got to come back to us. Anybody have any issue with that? The other one, knowing this one's coming back to, that this one was coming, and I don't see it honestly as a solution, but I do think we need to go down the path at least. is potentially abandoning this road. It just keeps coming back to us. Road maintenance agreement won't work because not everyone will sign off on that. HOA, again, will not work. We've tried that path. I don't see a whole lot of solutions here. Anybody else have any ideas, or thoughts, comments? What would y'all like to do on this? I mean, I think it's time that Hannon goes down the path and kind of comes back to us with a report saying whether or not we can abandon or what we have to do to move on with this.
What comes after cease and desist? What can you do after that? Can you, jail time?
Can you bring up, please, continue to scroll up.
Number 7.
We do have in there where we view this as trespassing. Yeah, stick with number 7. Give me all of number 7. There you go. Underline the right to express ownerships. We prohibit repairs or modifications. And then it says may be subject to criminal prosecution. Please continue to number 10. I do want to point out, stop there, that 9D does encourage the neighbors to develop a plan going forward. I know that can be difficult, but that's been the spirit of the position paper from day one. Number 10 goes further in there. We are thanking the residents for maintaining that area, and again, the area between the roadway and their respective property lines. And we encourage the residents to continue to do so. We also encourage them to police their area, and that's kind of where we find ourselves today. But we are discouraging anyone conducting any maintenance beyond the immediate area of the property line. The county will consider this any abuse of this license to trespass. So you have language in there, license to trespass. You do have, go back to 7, please. It looks like a means of subject to criminal prosecution. Certainly I defer to legal language or advice to our county attorney.
Yeah, this is Clay Jackson with the Board of Supervisors. Is Daryl there? We're talking about Leathers. Thank you. We're not on public comment right now, but we'll probably go back to it.
And Ms. Hoffman, to answer your question, yes, it would be criminal trespassing, which can be a Class 1 misdemeanor, punishable up to 12 months and $2,500 fine.
Maybe that's what we need to do next, no
And-
matter who's involved.
Criminal trespass on the basis of the maintenance component, even though they have an easement. All right, Daryl, we're discussing Leathers right now. We'll come back and let you say something, but we've already gone past it. We tried calling.
You hear me?
Yeah, hold on.
It would be, I think what your question is, it would be actions that are inconsistent with what our license is and with what their easement is could be charged as criminal trespass.
What do y'all want to do? You want to go down the criminal trespass path? I mean,
We gotta do something.
the problem is nobody's really following the paper. I mean, nobody's following it. We have an example at this point. Was the tree trimming done? No tree trimming.
Yeah, there was some tree trimming done on right of ways.
There you go. So there you go.
And I think to your point, which is that it's supposed to require unanimous consent of everybody involved as opposed to unilateral action, but the same reason we can't do presumably a road service agreement or homeowners association is that there isn't consensus, there isn't unanimity on that.
Right, but paragraph 9D takes that a step further when, I mean, it's pretty clear what the residents are supposed to do up there. Any resident wishing to make improvements or repairs to the road must obtain the consent of all landowners on Leathers Lane. If a resident is unable to obtain the consent of other owners, the resident shall submit a written request to the county administrator or his designee, sending a copy of the proposal to all other residents. Any resident opposing repairs or improvements shall likewise submit a written response to the proposal. county shall then make a determination as to whether to allow the repairs or improvements. That's pretty clear.
We've not given permission to anyone.
Nobody's come
on
to
it.
us.
Well, like Daryl has sent us a couple plans, we've acknowledged receipt, but no action has been taken on any of those items. So at least he submitted a plan, but we know work is continuing. Placing equipment or impediments in the easement is not permissible. I think we just got to send letters to everybody saying cease and desist, no work on the road. They can travel down the right-of-way, which is 50 feet. I don't know why you would want to. When did y'all go up there last?
Last month?
A couple of weeks ago or a month ago?
Probably a month ago.
Was it just as charming of a neighborhood as it always is?
It was bucolic.
Yeah, that's the word. Good word. I think I don't see. I'm not real keen on prosecuting criminally on this. I'm sorry. I think the court systems have enough problems. I think we've got to go down the path of the abandonment. I mean, which doesn't really solve the problem in any way, if you want the honest truth of the matter. So there's not really a good solution here. I wish we could turn it over to VDOT, but we know we can't do that. Let them maintain it. That would go poorly. I mean, what direction? What other direction do we have, Hannon?
Well, your directions are do
Yeah.
nothing, continue what we're doing.
Yeah, that's not working.
Would be some sort of a special tax area to try to get that road up to standards, which I think would be simply a non-starter based on the expense of that. And then, yeah, I think abandonment's your other one, or of course, they could voluntarily start a road, service maintenance agreement. But what it is now is that this board is turned into sort of like the Uber HOA board for this development. I mean, and I think it's something like 22 parcels, and just imagine if each subdivision in the county, or half the subdivisions, or a quarter of subdivisions county took this many time and resources of the county. It would just be unsustainable. So I don't think doing nothing is going to be an option for us.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have any comments? Please.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This is a clarification from Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright, if the road is abandoned, the property goes where? To each adjoining landowner, or?
The presumption is the property would go to the midway point of the current easement along their frontage of that.
Okay, thank you. Well, and I have to agree. I mean, this cannot continue. And if we let it continue, it's a dereliction of duty as far as I'm concerned. And what worries me is that from what little I know of what conflict has been transpiring up there, this is something that could easily escalate into a really bad situation, and we don't want that to happen. So either these folks are going to follow the agreement, follow the position paper and our agreement, or we're going to have to do something like abandonment. I mean, we're just going to be pushed to we'll be no choice. That's my opinion, Mr. Chairman.
Agree. The problem that you run into is even with the abandonment, it's no solution. It's just shirking us. And maybe that's the better direction to go, and let them battle it out between themselves and the courts. And that is a direction, but I don't know where we want to go here. I mean, I think that we should be sending cease and desist letters to anybody that's done work up there at this point. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yes, that's
So,
in compliance.
so there you go. All right, do y'all mind if I open it up to the floor for the residents of Leathers so we can hear what everybody says? All right, we need people to come to the microphone. All right, does everybody want Daryl? Daryl, you want to make a case first?
I'll let them go first.
Well, you're first. Nope, Daryl's first. Daryl, what do you have to say?
You.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yep. Go ahead.
No, let them go first.
All right, nobody's going first. If you want to talk, here's your opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, back in the 90s, county turned the road over to us. The people, everybody up in that, sitting in there talking about. We restored the road then, and all the people got to face the fact that there's a lawsuit against us and the county. It says all the neighbors who was involved. We kept it quiet. The neighborhood was peaceful. Certain neighbors at Kirby's came up, destroyed the road, didn't repair it, see us, Mr. King also, everybody. So while we were in the battle courtrooms, destruction of road, we repaired it. And I did, when I was in the courts fighting them, spending tens of thousands of dollars. We restored it, we did that part. Now, once that gets resolved, go. Kirby's could have access to the road. I went to the county, asked them to change the road to Rose Lane, so he has access to his property. He won't be landlocked. And it can't make it when they sued again. Nor when that loop, when they'll be sued again. I was shortening the road up to Rose Lane. We made it happen. Everything's settled. Restored the road again. Now, it's repeating itself, and I'm just trying to prevent another lawsuit. We spent about $50,000 restoring this road. I did, my wife did. And we all spent tens of thousands in North Park. And they repeatedly restored this road. So that?
Yeah, we're here. What else you got?
Well, we got documents, copies of the lawsuit, previous neighborhood, and how peaceful it was, without county involvement, and nobody else involvement. We didn't know it existed up here. And it shows in the pictures the road before and after we repaired it. And also pictures that predate the Kirby's and everybody else that's up here. And we got documents of county officials, prosecutors, just a handshake, and we made it nice. Everybody was quiet for decades till they showed up. They completely keep on destroying my road frontages and the roads, and we're not going for another lawsuit. We're trying to prevent another lawsuit.
All right.
We have documents. It's out there. I showed them. I could pass them out to everybody.
The documents that, just for the record, Mr. Whitby, so you can hear me, the documents that Mr. Whitby is referring to is the documents that the Board of Supervisors has in front of them. The pictures that Mr. Whitby is referring to, and there are copies here we made in case anyone of the general public would like that, are the pictures he's referring to. So that was all submitted by Mr. Whitby today. He can speak to dates or locations, but that is his submittal. But that is the document that he is referring to.
All right, we've got the documents and pictures. Okay. All right. You got anything else, Dale?
I got a book that shows that when the county turned it over to us, they called it Old Lake States, and it was a peaceful neighborhood for almost a decade or so, decade and a half, probably almost 2 decades, until something never shows up.
Horrible.
They continually destroying property.
All right. Thank you, Darryl.
Thank you, sir.
All right, who's next? Just identify yourself, Mr. Lenoff, please.
My name is Brian.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Lenoff, and I live at 603 Lowe's Lane, and I've been part of the Lowe's Lane community for over 40 years. The community is actively talking about road maintenance. We recently got an estimate from Mr. Hoffman to do work on one of the areas where Mr. Whitby has taken upon himself to destroy the crusher run, and the estimate came back at $10,550. because of the cost of diesel. So we figure we can't do it right now, we're gonna have to wait. So Mr. Whidbey doesn't want to be part of the community and have negotiations on road maintenance. He just wants to be combative and not part of the community, and that was his choice. Most of the neighbors there who are residents do have talks, and we have had talks about having community cleanup days. But we're resistant to do that because we couldn't do anything because of Mr. Whidbey's resistance to participate in the community cleanup and talk about road maintenance because he disagrees with what the road maintenance should be. He simply wants to get on his tractor and drive up and down and scrape and destroy the crusher run instead of doing stuff to the VDOT standard. So your assumptions that there's no community involvement is incorrect. Several of the community members do talk about stuff, do stuff. That's like we have a couple Airbnbs and we've tried to get them into the mix now, but they have not wanted to talk to us about road maintenance because their position is, I don't go past my house, why should I participate in the maintenance of the rest of it? So I understand that philosophy. So we're up against people who own businesses that don't want to participate in the road maintenance because up to their business, whatever you want to call it, it's fine and they don't really care. But you go past that is where it needs to have road work done. And there has been an Airbnb person who laid gravel down on the other end towards the back of where it used to be Placid. But he didn't really reach out to us and get our opinion of what really would be the proper thing to do. Instead of laying gravel, he should have put some crusher run down and smoothed it out. Did you go down to the back road? Did you see the little wash and stuff like that? The Copelands? Yeah, so he did the wrong thing with gravel.
Yeah.
But he didn't reach out to anybody and ask of our history and our experience of working on the road. So it's kind of like disheartening to us when you say that there's no community involvement. We do have people that talk about road maintenance. We do talk about people because there is a position now to where we need to cut back some of the trees. So the Kirby's really didn't do tree trimming. They cut back the brush in the right-of-way so that cars could go back and forth. So there's no large tree trimming done. It was simply cutting back some of the brush, some of the overgrowth, and we viewed that as like cutting the grass. I guess you guys view it as something different. Okay? So it was maybe trees that were like this, and it's basically so we could pass. So one of the places where we can't pass now is at the entrance. So we need to come in there and do some more bush removal, but we're hesitant because one person doesn't want to be part of the community, and one person doesn't want to go with the flow, and one person doesn't want to basically participate in making it an easier egress and ingress in and out of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can you respond to this?
No, we're not arguing.
You see my, yeah, okay.
All right.
Y'all can hear me?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, I probably have a little more to say, but I want to address a couple of.
Can you
I'm
identify?
Charlotte Lindholm,
Thank you,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
And I live on Leathers Lane as well. I do want to, not that it is something, I just feel I need to say this, Mr. Whidbey talks about being the longest resident up there. My family's been up there 40 years, just that. You also talked about, you know, yes, you can be on the right-of-way, the 50-foot right-of-way, and that's good to hear, but you said you didn't know why we would do that. Keep in mind, this is a one-lane road, and when another car is coming, you do have to move over. So that would be an example. Or if a dog runs out, we have a lot of dogs, sweet dogs, but they run out. So that's just an example, so I just wanted to bring that up. I want to say that Daryl Whidbey has been raking daily since August 28th when I first sent Mr. Weekly our first complaint. And since then, it's been almost every day, minimum of 15 days. I know he didn't have approval because Mr. Weekly told me he didn't. He also mentioned that Mr. Whidbey had been in his office a week before, and he referred to the position paper, and he's the steps. But Mr. Whidbey went ahead and did what he did. it started out, and it has continued, that not only is he raking daily, he's specifically concentrating on the beautifully compacted crusher run that we did get approval to lay down and spend $10,000 on. If you recall, about 2 days after we had had that laid a couple years ago, Mr. Whidbey had a full dump truck of gravel dumped all over the crusher run. When he found out another neighbor saw him, he went out that night with his wife and raked it off. And we had to spend another $1,000, had your approval, to repair what we just had done. Again, Mr. Whidbey is continuing to place large logs, booby traps, branches. The golf cart is not the first time he's done that. His tiller, which has been on there several times. His tractor. He is also, some other neighbors, by the way, since then, because of the raking every day, have also sent complaints, not just us. I don't want it to sound like we're just complaining. Even if Mr. Whidbey had received permission, which he didn't, raking a road every day, is that necessary? No, you rake a road every so often, maybe after a really big gully washer, but every single day. So his actions, in my opinion, are spiteful and malicious, and this is how it was even worse before this position paper came into being. 99% of us do follow this position paper. One thing I don't remember if it's in this one, but in a previous one, you did mention we should police the right-of-way that runs along our own property. So, that allows you to mow grass. That allows you, if you do, because if you just let it go, you're gonna have trees growing up, mow those down. And I think in the spirit of the people who did recently take down some of the brush that runs along the right-of-way, I think that was the spirit in which that was taken. It was to police it, not do road maintenance. Additionally, you referred to the pile of dirt that Darrell Whidbey had delivered onto his undeveloped property. He has been told in many cease and desists to stop putting dirt along the road and in the road. And we're starting to see at his undeveloped property what he did in front of his house, where he, over the years, has essentially shifted the road by more than 10 feet towards other people's property. Thus, I'm only assuming because I'm not in his head, giving him more of a grassy area in front of his house, to which he believes he owns. The other thing that I wanted to mention, if you don't mind, I'm going to just read this as quickly as I can, because I did put a lot of thought into it. For what it's worth, and I like y'all, believe me, but I'm probably not going to gain any favors, so I'm going to say, but I've been up there a long time, and I've been living in a very uncomfortable situation up there, and not living where you feel safe or at peace in your own neighborhood. I'm disappointed in the way you all have handled the situation. I feel it should have been shut down years ago by dealing with the one property owner that has been causing these situations. Instead of following and acting on your own position paper, which the previous attorney wrote, we all, law-abiding, good citizens who have been following the position paper, have mended relationships after the lawsuit. We just feel that Mr. Darrell Whidbey's, what he's doing is spiteful, destructive, it's intimidating, and we believe it's purposeful, malicious behavior. You have sent him no less than 4 cease and desist. And when you say, well, just send another, it doesn't matter to him. It does not matter. We have suggested either setting up a fining system. We have suggested following your own paper where you talk about prosecuting for trespassing. My own suggestion would be, after this many cease and desist and years of his sustained repetitive behavior, he should just be basically banned from being able to do any road maintenance at this point. I think he has caused so many issues. None of us would be here had it not been for this continuous situation. I personally feel that the board has, in some ways, chastised us for standing up for ourselves. There was a time that we just started not reporting anything, and then when we started again, we were chastised, but well, why didn't you report it before? Because it just keeps going, and y'all aren't stopping it. This road belongs to you. We can only try to follow the rules set up, you know. We can't take him to court for a road that you own. You all have suggested, in fact, it was the previous attorney, call the sheriff's department. They were just called recently. Nothing you can do, it's a civil case. And the road belongs to the county. To sum it up, there's one person that we feel that causes all of the issues, and we feel the board has been choosing to placate him by continuing to sending a piece of paper that means absolutely nothing. I know if I got the paper, me personally, it would bother me a whole lot. While 99% of the property owners follow the position paper, what good is it when you allow someone to completely disregard it time and time again? Would you allow this behavior on another county road? I don't think that you would. So why would you consider or allow your would-be to continue doing it? I don't know. I mean, at this point, prosecuting or just completely taking away or revoking his license permanently. I think you've given him enough.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I have pictures that I'd like to pass around. This is started in 2014, and it shows in.
Your name, ma'am?
Sherry Kirby.
Thank you.
I'm the one that had the brush.
Yes, ma'am.
Kirby.
Kirby.
2018 is when a lot of what Charlotte talked about as far as adding stuff to the road and planting plants in front of his house that is part of the road, and he continues to place things on that. In 2018, I was going to say, in front of the lot 20, Mr. Whitby placed dirt and sod on top of the gravel road, and he planted grass and shrubs on the county-owned road, and then placed a large tree branches and logs. Most recently, he has placed easels and tillers, which you all know, creating difficulty for people who need to pass on that area was extreme. In fact, he has shifted the road in front of lot 20 by 10 to 12 feet. We have frequently, and that's the road. We have frequently asked the county to assist us in resolving these many issues in which they have been able to do sometimes, but most have been short-term fixes. We, again, are asking for help to finally resolve these ongoing issues once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby.
John wants to say something, but I don't know that he can.
Yeah, take a microphone to him, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Am I coming across? Okay. I'm John Kirby. I'm Sherry Kirby's husband, and we live at 604 Leathers Lane. And what I'd like to ask is that the county attorney check with Judge Philip Bolton's judgment. The case number is CL 15003021-00, and it's in the 16th Judicial Circuit of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And some of the highlights of it that have to do with Leathers Lane is originally there was a plat for Syria Mountain Estates, and it showed a road on there that was, at that time, was called Grandview Avenue, but it then was changed to Leathers Lane, but no change in the actual width and length of the road. It's still the same road. And you'll see, if you look at it, some of the highlights is that it's 50 feet wide. That's not 50 feet to the center, it's 50 feet wide. And the length of it, it goes all the way from where it starts out to Leathers Road, which is Virginia Route 720. And to have something placed in that 50-foot width, which, and also this same case says that Madison County owns the road. It doesn't say that they own the own portion of it. It says that they own it and they agree to it. It's difficult for me to see because, but anyhow, if the county attorney will just look at that case that I've mentioned and go through it, I think you'll see what my points are. Thank you.
I've got a large poster of that plat in my office.
All right. Any other comments? Y'all want to let Daryl comment again or not? All right, sure. Say it, go again.
All right. All right, thank you. Lived in front of our house, lot 20. About 20 years ago, when the county turned it over to us, Mr. Kinkenbrake couldn't get to his house. Mr. Novak couldn't get to the house because it's a cover pipe. And every time it rained, it flooded. They couldn't get to the house. Mr. Kinkenbrake asked, we worked together on it. We filled it in and restored it. And it's not flooding over, no road damages, nothing. On the second part, when we restored the road, we put 3 layers of crushing on and packed it. I made it double wide so nobody would never be sued again. And we had topsoil to restore the road back to 1 lane. And the curve they fixed, supposedly fixed, it washed out the first 6 months. And all those other neighbors had to deal with it. So we repaired it. It's fixed. That's all I say.
All right.
Who is we?
Who is we? You and who did the work?
I did.
All right, so,
But in front of my house, Mr. Kinkenbrake asked me, can we build a hole in?
who is that?
The road,
That's my fault.
All right, thank you, thank you. All right.
Say it to him.
All right. All right, we're done with public comment. I think we should go down 3 paths here. One, nobody has a license to do any work on the road. There hadn't been any written permission, and it hadn't come in front of this board for any written work. So that means none. And now we're hearing also about the gravel, which I frankly just forgot about, that the person with the Airbnb, so there's another one. We haven't heard any of this. I think we send cease and desist to everybody. And then also, from this point forward, I think we should go down the path, as this is kind of a warning that we're going to go down the criminal path until we can figure out the abandonment side with penalties on it.
can we ask that they start making ruts?
No, I don't know about that. We're done with public comment. Does
You're
anybody
on the trespassing side, huh, Hannah?
If we went down the criminal path like the position paper says, would we go after them based on the trespass?
Potentially, and that would be on a case-by-case basis, depending on the facts.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Good.
That's a good idea.
What's your idea?
So,
Yeah.
Hannon, how would you, and I'm not saying I'll go this route, but what if we changed number 9D to say a supermajority? That's 2/3. I mean, as far as like if these people want to make a request, they can make a request, but they're not going to have all support.
Sure. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Have to look
Okay,
into
I mean,
it.
could we
When you
look
say
into that too?
supermajority, you thinking 2/3, 3/4, something?
Yeah.
In that realm? I'm
I
happy to
mean,
look into
how do
that.
y'all feel about that?
That's fine.
I thought about something like that.
The only issue, I think, fine, let's go down that path. I mean, it's a new idea.
Tell me what you're thinking. I'm listening.
The only comment I make about that is the neighbors of Leathers Lane, there are several neighbors that we've never really heard from because they want to be left out of this. And I completely understand why in every way. Maybe that's the direction, is go to the 3/4 side and 3/4, 2/3, whatever you want to do. It'd be an easy modification and we can go down that path.
Can I follow on this? I agree, I think you should have a supermajority. Anytime you go for a unanimous vote, you're almost never going to get it.
That's fine, yes, sir.
And if you have a supermajority situation, stipulate that the folks that vote in favor will bear the cost. So anyone who is against doing it will not bear any of the cost. And then I would go down the road, 1, cease and desist order, 2nd violation, you prosecute. Until there's teeth put into this thing, it's just going to go round, round, round. That's just some suggestions, but I thought the supermajority
All
idea was great.
That is, go ahead, Hannon.
I'm happy to look into it. I'm sure I'll go back to Mr. Gregg, the author, to, he may have had a very good reason that I'm just not tracking on right now about why it was unanimous, but I'll get an answer to you.
And maybe we need to look at the abandonment thing as well.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, so let's go down 3 paths, or a handful. 1, you're gonna look into what Dustin and Jim have stated at this point, right, Mr. Wright? The other one, we're gonna send cease and desist letters to everybody that's done work up there, which it seems like there's several. Good luck tracking all that down. On top of that, from this point forward, we need to be, this is fair warning, that I think the county is going to go after a trespass or some type of civil penalty or criminal penalty moving forward. And that's any maintenance to the right-of-way without this Board of Supervisors direct approval. Written like the paper states. And that's any maintenance. Everybody good? Does this seem reasonable? Come back next meeting, we can talk about it.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lenoff? Yes, sir.
All right, so mowing grass is okay, you put that in.
Because otherwise, that
Otherwise, you can't mow grass.
25-foot swath is gonna be, because that's how you all had it before, where we could mow
Bushes.
grass, mow grass, and
Bushes,
that was.
bushes 3 feet, 5 feet, 6
I
feet,
mean, there has to be
so
some mowing.
All right, Hannon, respond. Thank you.
I think we ought to, there's a process for this. I think we ought to go through it instead of
I agree.
an ad hoc decision right here.
I don't think any mowing or anything. We just got our first rain, and it's not growing very fast. I know. Come back, let's, we're now at about 40 minutes on this deal, which we need to deal with anyway. Hannon, would you come back to the next meeting with some direction on this? And then also some understanding of what the abandonment process would be? And we can go from there. Does that work for everybody? All right, thank you all. Daryl, I'm hanging up.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. That's
That's a really good idea.
All right, back to the agenda. We've got monthly reports. We know we're going to get to you, Ms. Warren, on the transfer station. Anything else going on with the county?
Just 2 quick updates from
Please.
finance. The HR payroll implementation is going well. We did run our first parallel payroll in the 2 systems, and in the train environment of Tyler as well as RDA, and we tied out almost everything to the penny on paychecks, which was great. We're going to be running a few more parallel payrolls between now and the end of the year and beginning the timesheet setup process on October 1st. And the last item I just wanted to mention was that the FY '23 audit work is going to begin the first week of October. Any questions for finance?
Anybody? Thank you, Mrs. Moore. All right, Sheriff, anything to add? Let's just give the microphone back there and we'll save everybody a couple steps.
Can I stand back here?
Sure.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'll just have a quick update on what's occurring down on Route 15. As you know, issues down there involving fire, rescue, law enforcement. So this is stats from our office, last 45 days. We've increased our visibility to be proactive. We've had 12 motor vehicle accidents, resulting in 3 fatalities, plus a possible 4th fatality, plus 3 serious injuries, accidents. Last Thursday, Friday, a gentleman ran off the side of the road, overcorrected, went down through the woods, hit a tree, knocked the engine out of the car, and he actually, part of his body went through the floorboard. We've issued 41 summons in the last 45 days down in the area, the highest one being 85 and opposed to 55. Mr. Jewett can advise you of the issues we're occurring down there. Myself, I've contacted VDOT. We put up a message board asking people to slow down out near Meander Farm. I've requested additional speed limit signs. As you know, the Code of Virginia states VDOT, you can only have a speed limit sign every 5 miles. So it's only 2 miles, 2 signs down in that area. So hopefully, additional signs will be posted down in that area there. We have a radar sign that you put up that we had here in town. We put it down there now, and that's also giving you an indication of your speed, plus we're recording what the high speeds the next couple of weeks. We're continuing to be proactive down there. I've had special enforcement down there, guys go down throughout the day down there trying to deter traffic, deter speeding, but it's just not working. It's not. So I just want to give you a heads up. We're hard at it, being proactive, but it's just, Mr. Jewett can affirm to tell you, just traffic is increased, it's that bad. And I hate to use the word that bad, it is that bad down there. Not only in our county, also, everywhere from Zion Crossroad to Culpeper, Route 15. I've actually, on my personal side, I've forbidden my daughter even to drive 15. It's that bad. So, that's all I have.
Please,
Any
yes,
questions
sir,
about that?
of course.
Sheriff, first of all, I want to thank you for the enforcement efforts that you have stepped up down that area. I know this summer, myself and others in the community have noticed that traffic increased significantly on Route 15, along with reckless driving. I mean, over the summer, I've been run off the road twice by somebody passing on a yellow line. And aggressive driving, a large number of traffic, I know that you're highly visible there. And I've actually seen a decrease in traffic since you've increased patrols down there. So I think it's having a positive effect. But you're right, I don't know where people's minds are driving these roads today. They don't seem like the rules apply to them. But anyway, thank you. It's increased your safety. Thank you.
We will continue to be down there. It takes, our traffic enforcement off at 29, but I think right now, the majority of where we should be is on Route 15. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, Noah?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, before
Yes,
Noah
sir.
begins, I received an email shortly today I'd like to address back. Woodbury Forest as well has shown concern, so I'll take the information that the sheriff has sent. One of the things I had it asked of me recent, but I believe that's a board's decision to petition VDOT. I don't know if speed reduction signage overall would help, not just slow down, but meaning considering a reduction of 55 to 45 on that road. We know things could cause congestion. Some of this is people just need to pay attention and slow down. I travel that road as well. I've had people pass me at the intersection of Locustdale and Oak Park to go around me because I'm making a right. There is no decel lane there, and they're impatient and they're going up. So I don't know if that's something that you would want to consider. I haven't looked at the mileage from county line to county line, but Route 15 is very problematic, it's just reported, and you have other agencies involved in those.
I really
Seems
don't
like weekly routines.
I really don't understand it, because I drive down 15 periodically, and it's not a hard road to drive. And I'm afraid if we were,
That's the problem.
I mean, if we reduce the speed, then one, we'll be able to generate some revenue, which I hear is illegal. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just gonna make them even more distracted because they're gonna drive even slower and then be on the phone twice as much. It seems like the sheriff, I'm glad to hear he's, being effective down there and that presence making a difference. I don't think slowing it down, because I think that just makes people look around even more and not pay attention to the road more than they already are.
Okay.
Anybody else got any comments on it? You all want to petition VDOT? I mean, we can do whatever y'all want to do.
It just comes down to enforcement.
work, yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunate, and we hate to hear the deaths, and I mean, 41 summons in the last 40 days is pretty ridiculous. Just what it is. Anybody else got anything on this? Noah, please.
All right, good evening. Month of August, we had 165 calls, 11 minutes was our average response time. We assisted green twice out of 5 requests, assisted orange once out of 2, and then due to the crash, we had 2 mutual aids into Madison. And our team, I shared the county's appreciation from Administrator Weekly, Supervisor Hoffman. It's noticed and appreciated. It's tough on the team to see this tragedy. I'm excited to report a couple hires, Alexander Klemenko, Kelly Sorrell, and Claire Wesson. They're all going to be starting orientation soon. That leaves us with 1 full-time vacancy, and I'm hoping to make an offer this week for that. Dr. Rames is now officially our medical director. We're having a meet and greet at the fire department on September 25th at 4. On August 10th, Pegasus came out. They have a new aircraft, so our crews got a chance to orient to the new helicopter. And UVA brought their NETS team and critical care team, which was great to interact with them. 8/12, we did the back-to-school fair. The 19th and 20th of August, the Hare Scramble. The 25th, high school football, and the 30th, JV football. And our ambulance was ordered on August 9th. That's all I got. Happy to answer.
When do
any
you
questions.
expect delivery? I know what you said. I mean, they give you any timeline?
It's 33 months.
Oh, fantastic. Y'all must be looking forward to it. I don't hold your breath. All right, questions from Noah?
Noah, do you only have one Kelly? One,
We're currently 1, but we will have 2 when she starts on the 8th.
okay. Well, the Kelly that you currently have was on a call with my granddaughter the other week, and she was so helpful and so nice in a lot of ways. If you tell her thank you for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
She was really, she was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Gavin, Emergency Services?
Good evening, everyone. Not a lot to report. The shelter upgrade grant that we received, we're still working on trying to proceed with the engineering drawings and finish the final specs so that we can get that out, start ordering equipment. And so not a lot of movement since last month. The SHSP grant is moving forward. It's gone through both the grants that we applied for, which were the 4 mobile message signs, and then the unified command trailer, have gone through the peer review, and they've also gone through the subject matter expert review. I was actually able to sit on both of those processes, but for the subject matter expert, that I was able to kind of watch and see what was going on. We did quite well for both of those in the SME, especially the unified trailer. So I'm cautiously optimistic. It still has to go through the 3rd phase, which is what it's in right now, which is the scoring phase with VDEM at this point. And they basically go through everything that comes in through the Commonwealth and start scoring it. So hopefully we'll be fortunate, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see where we end up. Given everything that's going on Highway 15, it would be great to have those signs right now, had in a couple different places. Touch a Truck event had been scheduled and then rescheduled, and now it's canceled. It'll be in April of next year, is what the free clinic is targeting. They had some other things that conflicted, so they had to remove it from their schedule. Since I sent the report in, I have scheduled the public safety meeting for November 10th. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Highway 15 at that time, and we've got some other things with our event permits and what have you to discuss. And then the LAPC meeting is also on November 10th. Both meetings will be held at the firehouse at that time. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Anybody have anything for Gavin? Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Livingston?
I actually submitted a report.
You're holding the microphone too close to your face.
I'm guilty. All right. Yes, just a reminder that we're doing the vulnerability scan this week. Just everybody keep doing what you're doing. Nobody's out to get nobody or find anybody doing anything wrong. It is strictly designed to test our vulnerabilities so we can put a priority list together and then start shoring those up. And nobody's data, nobody's files, nothing like that's going to be accessed. So just if you can remind folks to keep doing what they're doing. Fiber project, I was hoping to have good news by the end of the month, but they're in here now, working on it.
That's them out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. Good.
And we have actually got a potential to have this thing connected by Friday, that would be the last leg of this fiber, of the county fiber, not the E911. We still got Brian's stuff going on, but that would put our entire town on fiber for the first time in however long this has taken, which will be great. Tyler Munis, we are working with the building department to keep them rows and other permissions, everything that they need to keep their training going. That's going pretty good so far. As far as the Avinity goes, we have now rolled over Avinity into production on the Laserfish. So their files are now automatically being stored in Avinity, so we're using Avinity now. Next is going to be Tyler. We've got to work on an interface between the two so that the data automatically goes over. There's a lot of cleanup that goes on with that. You know, once it's moving data around, we have to follow that path and make sure that it's not leaving chunks of stuff out there somewhere to fill up the server space. And that's about it for Laserfish. We're about to pay the last bill on that.
Good.
Turn them over. Me and Alan got a lot of work to do on creating these connector filters for all these documents. So I don't exactly know how long that's going to take. At this point, I think I will let Mr. Berry talk about the E911 issue that we had and where we are with that. 911.
You look surprised. What do you have, Alan?
I was on vacation last week.
Ah,
I
good.
have no idea about anything. So essentially, the problem that we had was our phones are set up on two different lines. Every desktop phone that we have has its own basic caller ID, so to speak. The problem is our caller ID for the phone, so if I pick up a regular phone, say Kim's phone in her office, and I make a call out, that number is not actually the number that goes out. There's a number called a caller ID override that's in our system. That number is the number that goes out. And through Granite, all of our numbers have an address associated with it. The actual number, in Kim's case, had an address associated with it. The caller ID override did not. So when she would make a call, that call would go to a national call center who basically says, who are you? Where are you calling from? How can we get you to your local 911 center? Obviously, that would take time if we had an emergency, and it would shave off precious seconds if we needed it. Essentially, what we did was we went through, worked with Granite to update all of our addresses for every single phone line that we have in the county. And we found quite a few that are not in use, but that's good. Nothing is wrong there, but if anybody makes a call on their phones now, they should get to our local 911 address center and should show up the correct address, because some of them were actually wrong. That's where we're at right now. Everything should be good now. We are also going to be scheduling department testing where we're going to go around, dial 911, say, hello, this is not an emergency. What is the address associated with this? What we've currently done so far is if you go to our desktop phone and you dial 933, it's basically an addressing system. An automated voice will say, you are calling from this address. So we've completed the basic version of testing, but then we're going to go the extra mile just to make sure every single phone gets to where it's supposed to go.
Seems to be important. Good work. The numbers the phone lines that we have that we are not using, I hope you're canceling those and saving us some money in some way.
We looked into that. Our phones are in a bulk system, so we purchase phone lines in bulk.
Great.
The rest of the numbers we have free access to. We can use them whenever we want, but we can't.
No, you're making progress. Keep going.
But we can't get rid of them, essentially. We have to buy them at a set number.
All right. Okay. What?
So we're getting ever closer every day to rolling out our mobile device management, which is going to be our Intune rollover. That's essentially going to be us having some control over all county mobile devices. That includes laptops and phones, tablets as well. The basic gist of it is this is an additional upgrade to our system, sort of like what we do with our passwords. So right now, if somebody gets locked out of their account, I can go in through our Active Directory and reset their account. Basic, same thing for the mobile device management. We're not going in and looking at people's files or anything like that, but it will help us locate files, locate devices if they get lost, reset passwords remotely, all sorts of that extra management stuff that we need, and will help us save money in case a device, currently, if it gets locked out through, let's just say, the iCloud stuff, can't touch it. It's a brick. That's however much money we paid for it down the drain. We're hoping to avoid that in the future with our mobile device management.
Anybody have any questions on this riveting IT talk? Anyone?
really good.
It does sound good. Ms. Hoffman's in support. Very good. Thank you very, very much. All right.
One last thing,
Oh,
we do have
good.
Mooney and Clarissa online.
All right. Well, you have the microphone. Mooney, we're sorry you don't feel well. I'm glad you're not here. Do you have anything to add, Mooney?
We got a lot of construction stuff going on in the county. We're trying to get ready, get it nice and tidied up. Our landfill, we just had an inspection from DEQ that passed for flying colors. So, it was a good job from Dyke and their new guy they have working for them. So that's all I have to add.
Anybody have any questions for Mooney? Thank you, Mooney. Feel better. All right, now Miss Berry.
I didn't really prepare anything because I was just listening to Leathers Lane. We've got a good docket tomorrow for the rest of the month. Things are just moving along. I'll talk with Hannah later about Leathers Lane.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Ligon.
I don't really have too much to add because I'm getting ready to do a presentation. So we're doing good. Only one public hearing scheduled for October. So we should be pretty light joint meeting.
Excellent. Tracy.
I'll be brief. We have the love work for an extra week, so if anybody wants to get their picture taken with it, it'll be there probably through lunchtime tomorrow. Taste of Mountains went very, very well. I'm sitting here with all of the cohorts from Noah's department, Gavin, everybody, Sheriff's Department, Lions Club, American Legion, all of those folks. Free Clinic had a wonderful fundraiser, working general store lot. Just the entire community got involved, and it was probably one of the better ones we've had. Every vendor that I asked said they did very, very well, so that was good. Miranda's actually reopened on the 1st, and they did very well as well for Taste of Mountains. We had 2 new businesses that participated. Let's Go Have Fun, hopes to open in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be at 1480 North Main Street near Noah.
What is that?
They have Hershey's ice cream, hot dogs, arcade games, both older ones and even virtual reality ones. It's basically an indoor playground for 6-month-olds to 12 years old, but they do have Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, so.
Hot dog,
Yep.
where is this?
Where the nest egg was, senior center nest egg,
All right,
the lower level there.
wonderful.
And then the Perfect Blend Boutique is out next to Giovanna's. It's a very upper scale secondhand shop, and it's actually secondhand September. So both of these places will be doing ribbon cuttings, of course. Those are the main things I've already put through my conferences that are coming up. And then we do have our event planning workshop next week, which I'll be leaving directly from that. Just finalized our quad tank competition, our last one, 5th and final, for any business owners in Fluvanna, Greene, Louisa, Madison, and Orange. That they have to have their business plan in by the 30th of October, no, 3rd of November. Finalists announced on the 10th, and then the pitch competition is the 17th. We think that's going to be in Orange. These businesses can earn $5,000.
All right, questions for Tracy? Thank you, Tracy. All right, I think that's everybody. Yes,
Two
sir?
things.
Yeah,
One,
please.
thanks to our wonderful EMS crew confirming. VDOT report is in your packet. Just a couple of things. They have their publication of advertised for construction for the R-Cut at Shelby. The ad date is scheduled for November 2023. Those of you, there are some board members and liaisons to the town council. You've probably heard this, but there's an ad date scheduled for winter of 2027 for some scoping of some sidewalks that in the town of Madison. I think it's out near the early learning center locations. The Pine Hill Road Bridge replacement, that ad date is scheduled for January 2025. However, I want to thank both Mr. Gordon, our EMS and fire folks who staged in the area. There was a temporary structure put in place at that bridge on Pine Hill Road. That means access from last night of 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. today was restricted. However, a proactive approach was taken where we had people staged just in case of event. That temporary structure replacement went well. Thank you for reporting that. And then lastly, Mr. Gordon is away at some testing certification. We would like when our folks achieve additional certifications, he can report on that next month. However, I did receive, probably during his lunch break, we do have our first round of construction drawings for the radio tower site in Etland. So we have some internal comments, and part of the lease agreement requires Madison County to have that continued dialogue and review by the property owner. Brian has notified the property owner, and upon his return, he will meet with them. Nothing earth-shattering. I think the tower needs to be shifted a little bit on the drawing. We know our easement documents and all are good, but it needs to be reflected so we don't get into any fall path issues. And there is a minor retaining wall at the highest peak. I think it's just over 5 feet. The property owner is aware of that, but sometimes you have this topography change, but it's not this aggressive 40-foot retaining wall. It looks like it's around 5 feet at the tallest point, and it drops off after that. So tracking well there. Verizon also confirmed we can get the jumbo packet service. They do have some fiber there that makes this site possible, but they did confirm this extra jumbo packet service that we need for our system to work. So we have that in writing. So that was something I wanted to report on Brian's behalf.
Thank you. Questions from Mr. Weekly on this? All right. Let's do some minutes. We have the consent agenda. It's minutes 8/08/2023, 8/22/2023, and then we need to pull the 9/06/2023 because Ms. Hoffman was absent, and Mr. Dawson caught that we had the wrong month on September for the last set. What was it, April?
Needs to be changed.
Right in front of meeting 31, or right after meeting 30.
Yes, sir. So we do need to do just a change on that, but that's more administrative. What would y'all like to do on the two sets, I guess?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from 8/8/23 and 8/22/23.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And then the set of minutes from 9/06/2023.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from September 6, 2023.
Anybody want a second? There you go. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed and abstained?
Abstain.
Ms. Hoffman abstains from the 7 minutes. Thank you. We understand Mr. Bowman's a little bit under the weather, so we have Mr. Ballard from the Blue Ridge Committee. Mr. Ballard, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Jim Ballard. Bruce Bowman, of course, is your representative on the Blue Ridge Committee for Relations with the Park. He couldn't be here today because he's trying to recover from a serious bout of COVID. Don't worry about my mask. I've not had any exposure to it. I've been wearing this for over a year. Having had 3 bouts of COVID, I don't want a 4th. So that's why I'm wearing it. The meeting we have next week, on the 21st, with the park superintendent, is devoted entirely to looking at increasing cooperation between all emergency services and communications with the counties around the park. And for this meeting, Madison County will be well represented. We've got Noah, Billy Ham, and Gavin all will be at that meeting. And we'll get back to you after the meeting and let you know what we've learned. If any of you have any serious problems that need to be taken up with the park at this time?
Anybody have any serious matters with the park?
No, I'll be there as well.
Great.
I've already ordered the meatloaf.
Great. We'll work up the carpooling later in the week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. All right, Wigan, come up and tell us where we're at with the comprehensive plan.
I put together a few slides. I'll try to go as quickly as possible on this. And Kimberly, I'll hit your first slide. I'll move through it pretty quick. And we just want to say here, as far as the Code Virginia comp plan must be reviewed, updated every 5 years. I just put you can see there are some of the things that can be covered, a lot of latitude. I always say there's not a comp plan police. I don't see anybody get in trouble for how they do it. There are a few things that need to be included. We are not really doing we're doing kind of a full review, but I think there's some parts, like I think the 29 corridor plan, that we can just simply re-adopt. Not a full-blown rewrite, but we have a meeting with kind of reviewing some things, maybe more in depth. A lot of communities just slap update, change a few words, go to the next. We're not doing that. I think it's a good thing, but also trying to find a balance in between. We don't have to reinvent the whole comp plan, but also things that we feel are relevant. Just real quick, 2018 was our last update with RRC, Rappahannock Regional Plan Commission, and they've been working with us, and we have identified 5 specific areas that we're going to focus on in the comp plan. The next slide.
Ligon, shouldn't that be October, November 2022 instead of 2023?
Yes, right. Thank you. I did this really quick today, like the last couple of days, so there might be a few typo. Thanks for catching that. But yeah, that was right. We started almost, as a matter of fact, it was September last year when we presented. So here is the proposed outline, layout, introduction, background information, which tonight's going to be heavily on the background information, the plan elements. You see those 5 areas. We have worked on housing, land use, community design, built environment, and economic development. This committee still needs to work on the recreation, community facilities, utilities. That would be B and E, still need to yet be completed. On E, I do think we can re-adopt a lot what was in the 2018 plan and would be in good shape. I don't have a lot of these details from these specific plan areas here. I have a little bit just to show you, but we're getting ready to put out a survey that will go out hopefully in October that will have again ability for the citizens and folks who want to answer questions to sort of guide this plan, and that survey should be coming out in a few weeks. So go to the next. I'll just get right into the demographics. I think is an interesting part, and this is a little smaller than I had hoped. But if you look at the population of Madison, the last census was 13,837. That is the last 50 years. If you go to the left, that's the last well, since 200+ years of growth. Really, in the last 50 years, I would say Madison has had modest yet steady growth. It's unlike a lot of rural areas that have lost population, Madison has definitely held its own, I would say, up to 14,000. That last number is from Weldon Cooper. The ones before that are from the Census Bureau. Just to look at our friends nearby, Green, in that same amount of time, 2010 and 2022, has grown 11, almost 12%. Orange is at 8.4%. Culpeper is leading the region at 12.5%. And we have decreases of a third of a percent in Rappahannock, and Page has lost 1.3%. So we're right there on the lower end of growth at looking at a little over, in that time frame, 5.3%. So healthy, but modest. Next slide. If you go, I'll do this right. On the, this is what we did in 2018. If you look at population projections, we projected in we wouldn't even have, the last in 2018 was projected, wouldn't have 14,000 people until 2030. So we've obviously, that's the thing about projections, that it's so many variables, and sometimes it's hard to project. So it's sometimes it's a task that is hard to really to do. So you can see that the projections from 2018, I don't think are the data we have now, I think, shows that they really weren't that great projections, but that's okay. But it's just a projection. It's not something that it just changes. And if you look at the projections to the right, I put this in an AI model and said, for the last 50 years, here's the growth numbers. Tell us what this would look like based on these numbers. And I think it's probably as good as any projection we can have based on the last 50 years. You can see in 2040, 15,600 is what it's called what we call the interpolation approach. That's a statistical term. So that's what the computer used. I think those are pretty good numbers. Again, slow but modest, and that's what we've seen in the last 50 years. Okay, next one. And regional trends. I don't really like the map to the right because I think it should all be one color with dark and shaded. But if you can see if you're red or orange, you have lost population. Everyone else, the yellow is a slight growth. You can see Madison. You have Page over there that is lost, but everyone else in this sort of central northern region, northern Piedmont, you can see has modest growth. Orange, on the other hand, orange with modest growth. Culpeper was slightly higher growth. These are also trends since 2020. You can see the fastest growing counties in 2020 in New Kent, Goochland, Louisa. There are Clark, which is very similar in terms of population as Madison. So we're kind of in a growth region, but again, a relatively slow growth region. You can see large parts of the states are losing population, especially rural areas. Go to the next one, Kimberly. Age characteristics in Madison County. As you can see to the left there, we're all getting older. So in 1960, we had a little over 28 years was our average age. In 2020, we're 46.4. The Virginia's median age. So the median sort of the same, but in average is 38.8. So we're as a county, a little older than the state. Some comparable counties, I looked at Amelia County, which is similar size to all these counties here are similar in size and somewhat in nature as Madison. Amelia, 45 years. Clark County, 48 years. Allegheny County, 48 years. Northumberland County, the Northern Neck, 59.3 years. That's one of the oldest counties in the state. Look at age distribution. We're getting a little older. The age group 65 years and older make up 23% of the county's population, or nearly 1 in 4 of Madison County's total population, compared to Virginia's average rate of 65 years or older, which is 16.3%. So we have a few more older folks And you can see that orange line there at the bottom. See, the older is getting a little larger, the younger cohorts are getting a little smaller, but modestly. I mean, in 1990, 19% of the population were 19 and under. Here we are, 30 years later, it's 18%. So I guess the big takeaway for me would be that I don't think we're going to have to worry about building new schools. We're going to have to worry about shutting down the schools. Looks like we're kind of maintaining. I suspect that to continue. Last, on population age summary, keep going, Kimberly. It's got me a little bit out of order. Okay. Household size, this is, I think, an interesting statistic. You can see household size has decreased in Madison County and all through the state. Our average household size is 2.5, and that's very consistent at 2.57 for the state. And you can see about 60, almost 65% of county households are 2 or 1 persons. And I know when we were doing this in the comp plan committee, some people have had a hard time getting in their head that, 4% of our households are 2 people or 1. But when we did a show of hands, like how many people are 2 people or 1 person households, it was about 67% of the room. So that is consistent, and again, kind of consistent with the state. So smaller households, a little bit older households. Okay, Kimberly, go to the next one. I just did a little summary. Over 50 years, Madison County has seen modest yet steady population growth. The county's median age has increased and household sizes have decreased. Almost 65% of the county households are made up of 2 or 1 persons. The school-age population, under 19, has slowly declined but remained steady. The over 65 population has shown consistent growth. The county planner believes Madison County's demographic trends mimic many state and national trends. Overall, households appear to be trending older and smaller. Next one. A real quick review of our economy and employment. About 6,300 individuals make up the labor force. We have a very high labor force participation. It has ranged from 60% to 71%. Those who don't participate are usually people who are in school, retired, but if you're over 16, either you're retired, you're in school, potentially disabled, the rest of the population would be considered part of the labor force. You can look to the up top there, about 1,300 people commute in every day, folks like myself, but about 3,400 people commuting out. 1,000 stay in the community. So we have a pretty large, over half of the workforce is commuting out of the county. Culpeper, Albemarle, Orange, Charlottesville, your nearby counties are the biggest receivers of this out commuter. And, okay, you can go to the next one, Kimberly. If you look at unemployment, you have a spike there during COVID, but consistently in the last 10 years, unemployment has gone down to historic lows. When you look at list of unemployment rates in the state, it is not unusual to see Madison at the lowest unemployment in the state rate. Very high labor participation, a very low unemployment. That's a good thing. And you can see the state has seen a decline as well. But Madison, again, has a low at historic levels unemployment. And if you look at the sectors, this is a kind of a heat map showing employment areas in the county. And also to the left, biggest employer, the people who work in the county are smaller, less than 5 folks. That's kind of typical for a rural county. Payroll, did you ever kind of guess what the total private payroll is in a county? Here, it's just under $95 million a year. Then that's up from 2015 at $89 million. I go to the tourism. I'm sorry, this is small to read. I got this from Virginia Tourism, just to kind of see what tourism adds to the community. The total expenditures last year, I was put in 2020, total expenditures in tourism as estimated by Virginia Tourism Commission was just a touch over 15 million. In 2020, that jumped to a little over, just under 21 million, 20,700,000. So you can see there's been a nice increase in tourism. I think it's probably gone up even more. But just to compare, to localities, Greene County was at 21.4 million. It went to 30.5 million. And here's one that really surprised me, I guess maybe because in a little Washington is so expensive, but in Rappahannock County, you see the Virginia Tourism Commission, 41.9 million, and they had 62.6 million in Rappahannock. I just get my head around that. That number shocked me. And so keep moving on. We're getting close here on farms. The number of farms has increased. This is coming from the agricultural census, and this is a little bit older data from 2017, but I think it's still pretty good data. You can see had 28 million, just under over $28 million in farm value receipts. Livestock and poultry are about 60%. Crops make up about 40%. And look to the right there, it says approximately 50% of farms contribute less than $10,000 in sales in 2017. In the last one, bullet to the right, it's approximately 1 in 4, about 23% of the farms contributed less than $2,500 in sales. So I think it indicates maybe a shift that has happened to more small production, hobby farms, niche type farms. Has sort of happened over the years. We have an increase, but I do believe they're just smaller, and maybe people aren't necessarily relying on farming as a primary income, as maybe a supplemental or maybe even kind of a hobby. And then this one right here, just income. Madison in 2021, median household income was $72,349. And that was a pretty big jump over the last 10 years. In the average between 2010 and 2014 was 51,000. We know things have gotten more expensive, but that is a pretty good jump in household income. Household incomes are usually, not always, but usually it's at least 2 income earners. Sometimes it could be 1. And look at our adjoining properties, the same adjoining counties. We had Greene at 73,000, very consistent at 73,008. Orange at 79,002, Culpeper at 85,274, Rappahannock, we're leading the way at 90,307, and then Page at 53,168. So we're significantly, 20,000 extra in income compared to Page is pretty significant. 61% of the households earn under $75,000. And that's compared to 47 and 49% for the region and state. So we're higher with our less houses earning, 61% of county households earn under 75,000. So we're higher in that percentage than the rest of the state and region. Poverty rate in 2020 was estimated to be 10.2, state 9.4. So we're pretty consistent with state in that. Next one. And I just did a little summary on employment. Madison County's unemployment rate steadily decreased over a decade, with the exception of a small blip during the 2020 pandemic, and the labor force participation remains high, and small-scale employers employ a significant number of individuals. Over half the county's labor force commutes outside the county. Household incomes have increased, but are generally lower than nearby counties. The number of farms in the county has increased, but many appear to be hobby-type farms. Tourism continues to see consistent increases in expenditures, and local tourism-related tax receipts have increased too. The county possesses a solid manufacturing sector. I think the second largest employer, didn't put that slide on there. And given the county's central location and access to significant transportation routes, future increases in manufacturing jobs seem plausible. Increases in local manufacturing could also attract homegrown employment opportunities to a majority of local workers who commute outside the county. The committee did talk about this some. I think that's probably maybe the one opportunity is that people who commute out of the county would probably prefer to work in the county. There have been a lot of manufacturing growth the last few years, has increased all over the nation. And I think central location of Madison would make it an attractive area for manufacturing. I do think of plywood hearth type related industries. The only thing is, I think a lot of these industries do, labor is a big issue. I think one thing that maybe could be an advantage or maybe over other communities is one, the central location that Madison has. We're, easily connected to a large transportation corridor, 29, access to interstates fairly easily. But the one maybe carrot could be that local workers would stay in the county to work in these type of professions and trades. So, let's a couple more slides. One more, Kimberly, you can keep going. Housing, so we did, there are 5 different plan elements. I'll just give you a little bit of a sort of a review of like the housing, and we'll stay on some numbers, because this was something that we talked about for several sessions. A little over 6,000 housing units in the county. This says that 84% were occupied, 61% were owner occupied, 22% were renter occupied, and it says 16% were vacant. I believe this is starting to, and we talked about this, is we're starting to see some of the short-term rentals, seasonal, and it does say 5% are considered seasonally vacant, but I believe this number, I think everyone would agree that 16% of the houses in this county are not vacant. That's just not, usually 3 to 5% is typical, are vacant, absentee landlord who inherits property, just lets it sit. So I think we're seeing this secondary short-term market, rental market, and maybe even second homes affecting this number. If you look at the type of houses we have in the county, I mean, far majority are single-family unit detached, and that's kind of typical rural community. Next one. Here's our building permit. Right here, this is good data right here. This comes, we know this is accurate because it comes straight from our office. You can see pretty consistent in the 30s, flipped a little bit, 15, 16 up to 47. 69 had a pretty big year in 2018. And then you see 2021 where it really took off. It has slowed. We ended up being, for all of 22, because this was taken as you can see 11.3. 67 was the number in 22, and right now we're at 38. So the single-family homes have kind of spiked, but it's kind of getting, it looks like it's going back to kind of normal levels where you're 34, 39, and that seems to be typical. When we look at medium home values, and this is really kind of the kicker with all of this, is that in the county, home sale prices have fluctuated, and there's all sort of data, and I took this from the realtors, Long and Foster's. I felt like it was most accurate. I mean, this number goes up and down, median home price for the month, and but in general, I think most of the data you look at is within a few $1,000s. But you can see the last July of 22, the median sales price was $431, a little over $431,000. This last July that's the middle. So you're going to have some under, you're obviously going to have some above, and then the median in just the July just passed was $385,000. Now, if you look at where we were back to the right there in the text, I mean, in 2018 we were at 266, 2020 299, 2022 431. So you can see that, and then it's dipped a little bit. So what will happen? Will it continue to dip? Median it was somewhere around 400,000 in Virginia, and that has, again, that's increased a lot in the last 5 years everywhere. Okay, any more? On our housing, just to give a quick goals and objectives we worked on. Just here's a goal, for instance. Goal, increase the range of affordable housing options, and we've got other goals for housing. We've got land use, and I'll present that at a later date. Increase the range of affordable housing options and choices, particularly for households or 2 or fewer people in older populations. I mean, we're using that based on the data we've collected regarding household size and age. 1, comp plan is required to adjust manufactured housing. Well, I mean, a lot of places you have to have a special use permit to get special manufactured housing, kind of like what we call a Clayton home. And they have changed a lot over the years, and in many respects, they are, really not a lot different than stick-built homes. But I would say continue to allow that in all zoning districts. Number two, we're talking about the ADUs as potentially an option for a niche option for affordable housing. Three, again, these are just considers. It doesn't mean that we have to rush out and adopt an ordinance or change our ordinances, but two, consider co-housing options for aging populations where residents live in private homes that share common spaces and resources. We had something like that a couple of years ago. There was a special use permit, I know, for something like that. I think those are good things, and we probably will see more of. Four, look to increase the availability of supportive services for older adults, support agency, nonprofits, Meals on Wheels, different things as a county that we can support. Again, this is just one goal, but very general goal with some somewhat concrete strategies, but yet, some are aspirational, some are just, hey, look, maybe you need, consider adopting an ADU ordinance or something like that. So the plan here out is to get the survey put out in October, have that data back, reconvene with the committee, and finish at least two sections that we still need to finish on the kind of the plan elements, and have everything presented beginning of the year with what we've done. The commission has been very helpful. This data, Jennifer Little from the commission is the one that did most of this. I kind of went through and picked out things I thought maybe were more relevant that I wanted to highlight. But I think it's going well, and we'll kind of get the comments back from the public. And again, I kind of imagine the final product will be some new things, adopting some things that are already in our existing plan. So any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions for Logan?
I got one quick one. So, Ligon, the survey is going to cover all 5 plan elements, or just the 2 that have not been worked
Yeah,
on?
we're going to cover all.
All 5, okay, that's all.
It'll be digital. We can send it out and get
Yeah.
as many.
Put it on the website?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Good. Thank you, Logan.
All right, thank you.
Jim, you got any, no, I apologize. All right, transfer station contract. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We occasionally do contract review, just, looking at terms, conditions, cost, and so forth. The existing contract that you have for your transfer station was executed back in August of 2019 between Madison County and Updike Industries Incorporated. The initial term runs from August the 1st, 2019 through August of 2024. A little bit of summary. So that is the initial term. The contract does allow for 3 renewal extensions, if you will, of 5 years each. That's not uncommon for a lot of contracts to have renewals. You did that recently in your engineering contracts. However, the importance here, per the contract, each renewal, each renewal will be automatic unless county or contractor provides written notice of 180 days prior to the end of the contract. So we're a little bit ahead of the 180 days, but I didn't want to wait till, December, January, when around the holidays, to bring this to your attention. I have reviewed our compliance history, so there are some directs and indirects. Certainly, Updike provides a lot of useful information. And then we have other contractor services, for example, through CHA Engineering. They help us with our monitoring because we have a landfill, a closed landfill permit. But a lot of that data that comes through as far as trash in and out or recycling and things like that, that goes into those reports, as well as the site and maintenance as well. I have reviewed and see no significant issues with maintaining compliance. I think, as Mr. Frazier has outlined, the most recent inspection went well. I can't think of any inspection here other than I think it was a minor thing, we had to update our operation manual. You know, we had an employee leave, here's our new point of contact. So while it's certainly important to keep those things up to date, some of that's county responsibility. So I have no major or continued compliance concerns. Issues that have been raised, whether it's hydraulic hose leaking or so forth, they have addressed those issues. So being that we are at this period where you'll have to give some thought or direct staff if you wish to either renew, which can be done through the existing contract, or if you wish to direct staff to solicit bids in early 2024. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, in your packet was included the transfer station contract. However, I do want to give notice, and we're going to go back and put this in, was not part of the packet, but I do want to recognize some good data, some number crunching that Ms. Warren has done. I'll get Ms. Turner to bring up on the screen if the chairman would like for Ms. Warren to cover that. It's good analytical data. I believe it runs from FY18 to present. Ms. Warren?
Thank you, Jonathan. So Jonathan asked me to put together from fiscal year 18 through fiscal year 23 the cost for the transfer station.
Yep.
So if you just look at this first example here on the expenditures, in FY18 we were right at $474,000, a little over that, and it looks like the annual increase was 11% for 19, 4% for 20.
Right there.
Fiscal year 21 was went down by 2%, and then it was 14% increase and a 16% increase in FY23. Some other data I did want to put in here was what is our waste collection revenue that the county receives that helps to offset the cost of the transfer station. And as you can see, it started in FY18 at around $137,000, and it's trended up to $290,823 in fiscal year 23. So it has steadily climbed on the revenue side. And
Ms. Warren, and what is that made up of?
That's,
what are the components of waste collection revenue?
That would be businesses that apply to use, that come in to use the facility.
It's a small part of you and I, if we take something out there that's not normal bag trash, say you're throwing away some old furniture or something, there are small charges.
Right.
But the vast majority would be our commercial trash haulers, which I think is like $65 a ton. So that's the primary revenue. The recycling we actually pay, and those proceeds are kept by the contractor. Sorry.
Okay, we pay a reduced tonnage for recycling stuff.
In the current contract, and I had to go back because I remember we had, I think, a different arrangement with the prior contractor. But in this contract, can you go to Exhibit A? I believe it's $46 per ton.
It is.
Is what it
Recycling is
states.
46 per ton.
Yeah, go to the end, please. We pay for recycle, so there's a monthly operation charge, that's for their staffing, their equipment, all that to be on site. You have recycling fee in there, you have your disposal and your hauling, all as part of your fee schedule. Some of those, and Jennifer's going to get into in a moment, have CPI tied to it. Some of those have fuel surcharge, so if there's a fluctuation of 25 cents per gallon, there's adjustments made there as well.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Please go back to her presentation. Sorry.
So in the next, if you want to go to the CPI info tab, as Jonathan mentioned, our monthly transfer station operation annual increase is tied to the consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers in the area of the South. So I pulled that up. I just wanted to show at the very top, you can see what that CPI has been since 2018 through 2023. And then in the column R there, the percentage increase from December to December, which is in our contract. So the effective date, this shows you in columns R, S, T, what they should have increased our transfer station operations. by starting in August of 2020, it would have gone up, if they would have adjusted it, it would have gone from $12,500 a month to $12,770. And as you can see, that those escalations there in column T. I did want to note that there on the right, I did put what is our first year FY18 and FY19 and what was our original fees, and also what is our current year for the FY23 and 24. And I just want to note that they have not escalated by the CPI index over the last several years, although they could have, and you can see there what it would have been if they have not. So I did put that in the slide.
But they have escalated some, but it's not consistent with the CPI.
It's not, the operations, transfer station operations has not increased at all. However, what has, if you look at disposal went from $23 per ton to $42 per ton. And then on the mattress disposal, they increased that from $23 per ton. They are now charging $175 per pull and $55 per ton for mattress disposal. So there on the right, you can see the only two line items that really have increased over the years are disposal and mattress disposal.
So disposal is tied to, so obviously we're a transfer station, so our refuge has to be transported somewhere to be disposed. And the contract requires them to do that, one, at an appropriate disposal facility, but try to find the best cost. So some of these things are pass-ons from the disposal sites to Updike to us. So the mattress charge was one of the recent additions they did because, quite frankly, disposal facilities are, I don't know if they either don't want to deal with them or they're a little more problematic, but neither they, that is a new charge. So disposal, plays a big part of this.
All right. Questions on Ms. Warren's analysis or the contract at this point? I think the real question here is whether we renew utilizing one of our options or go down the path of soliciting new bids. The last time we went down this path, Jack Hobbs and I met with multiple vendors out at the transfer station. I believe Updike was the only person that bid on the actual operations. With the way the world is working at this point, I'm very concerned about going back out to bid based on cost escalation. And that is a major, major concern of mine. I think that if we do it, and it's no guarantee we're going to get, Hobbs and I met with but there were 7 or 8 different vendors out there, and all of them seemed very, very interested. And then Updike was the only one that actually did, and that's problematic. And now we know that currently things are costing about 25% at a minimum more than they did in the past. And I do expect if we reopen this to bidding, we're going to go back down that path, and that's dangerous. I think that's one of the reasons the options were put in there. We appreciate Updike working with us on not increasing the CPI every year. We see the adjustments. It is a tremendous amount of money. I didn't know people actually disposed of mattresses in that way. But learning experience, I guess. What would y'all like to do? Would you want to go down the path? Where do we want to do? We want to study this a little bit and come back in a couple meetings. What would y'all like to do on this one?
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but having a contract that's kind of locked into CPI now, I feel safer about that than going out to bid and then having Updike come back in and not give us that deal, if you will. I don't know. That's just my initial thought.
I like the idea of offering it out, but I also like the idea of playing it safe, so.
What do y'all think down there?
Just one question for Mr. Weekly.
What's our time frame for having to make this decision?
You have 180 days, so from August 1st of 2024 back, so you can make it technically at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so we have some time.
We can think about it, absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we just study this, why don't we sit on it? We've got all the numbers, everybody knows how to reach either Mr. Weekly, Hannon, or Mr. Warren. If you got more questions, I'm sure they would be glad to answer them. Why don't we come back here in another month and see where we go?
October the 10th, I was able to confirm with Mr. Thornhill. He will be present. I asked for a short presentation. I know we tried the 10-minute, 10 slot, but it would also touch on some of the questions I appreciate from Ms. Squire. They can talk about any regulatory updates if they're coming, any forecasting of price increases, not necessarily pertaining to their services, but services that we use in an event of disposing of trash. Recycling data, sure, we can explore more and see what's beneficial we can put out there, as well as any construction repairs that need to be made or part of our capital plan. Those items are in our existing contract to seek recommendation and follow those, certainly if they align with our capital plan. So I've asked him to come. We've got him confirmed for the 10th of October.
Good, so, John, one more thing. So, what would be the appropriate time to put out an RFP and have a response to it? Could these providers do it in 30 days, or would they need 60? I'm trying to back up the calendar.
Yeah, you're dealing with the holidays, Supervisor Yao, so if you were looking to bid this out, if that was the choice, I would get it out there in November.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with holidays. I like a 30 to 45-day window. This isn't a normal, come look at this room and paint. There's a lot of factors that go into bidding something like this. So that way we can also give ample notice. If that's not plan ahead for it, it's just giving you that scenario, so we give ample notice to the contractor. If you choose not to bid out, we would certainly make them aware of that, and the existing contract would stay in place because mutual consent per the contract.
Yeah, and you would need, a couple of weeks to prepare an RFP?
Yeah, we would work. I look at my wonderful partner over here. I think sometimes we take 2 weeks, maybe 15 to 20 days sometimes, because we put together a group. We look at past contracts. We look at if there's anything additional we may want to see. We're going to solicit you for some of that information.
So it looks like maybe we're back to the first meeting in October. We probably ought to.
We should. The first meeting in October, we're going to see a presentation by Mr. Thornhill with the information. That gives us some time to study, and then pending the presentation and our studying of the contract and all the numbers, Ms. Warren, we can kind of go at it and make a decision whether we're going to go out for RFP or potentially continue the contract in October. Does that seem reasonable? And then we've got some time span to work off of. And we have the previous RFP for the transfer station, which certainly should help a little bit.
Dust it off a little.
Yeah. Does that sound like a plan to everybody?
Yeah.
Let's wait for October.
Do we have your numbers?
Yeah.
Yes, I forward that in an email around 4-ish, I think.
Okay.
So.
Everybody good on this one? All right. Good. Thank you. Apple Harvest Festival Permit application. Mr. Weekly, same as pretty much every year.
It is the same. I've our EMS community has left, and deservedly so. I did receive an email from our emergency management coordinator that they had no comments on this. They were fine. It does appear to be in line with their normal activity. It's 3 weekends. So certainly they develop their own planning to either stage or how they wish to cover, as well as the volunteer fire department, but we see no problems, and staff, myself included in that, would recommend approval. However, the reason why this is before you, the attendance per your ordinance is anything above 750 attendees requires board approval. So staff does recommend approval of the festival event permit application. Just beyond that, what Mr. Helm was speaking of for the public safety group, one of the things we're going to discuss is our permit applications. You may recall when there was a fireworks display, we had a firework permit, but we didn't have capture this. So we are currently reworking. Ms. Turner has done some good work on some of those permits to get their feedback. That's what we promised the board, and we would come back. That does not prohibit or nor change my comment or recommendation of approval. I just want to let you know there may be a new form coming to you to review and make comment on.
Anybody have any comments about this? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Graves Mountain Lodge Fall Festival permit.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, Social Service Board appointment. Ms. Turner, here we have had a resignation. We've got somebody else coming in.
Yes, I was informed, excuse me, newly appointed DSS member Shelley Banks has had to resign. Before you tonight is Sarah Owen. She was one of the original applications we received. She is being brought forward for you to consider for the Social Services Board.
This was a previous applicant,
Who resigned?
Shelley Banks. What would y'all like to do with this potential appointment?
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, good. Anybody have anything we need to discuss? I feel like we've done a lot of that tonight. Information and correspondence, broadband update. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll cover different parts because our project is not a one.
Excuse me. I'll cover different parts because our project is not a one provider type of project. You may recall at the last meeting, I gave you an update on Brightspeed. But first, I want to start off with Madison County has 2 broadband projects underway, or at least designated. The RISE project is being handled by Firefly. I encourage the general public to go on our website. There is a broadband page, Kim, that's located under Government, under Economic Developments link on our website. You can go there and learn about kind of where we started with broadband to present, as well as view the RISE project online and register and see if services available in your area. The other broadband project covers a small portion of the county, a small portion of the western part of the county along Wolftown Hood Road. That was an RDOF challenge. You had 2 RDOF challenges during your VATI, your first VATI grant. One was by Chantel, one was by Brightspeed. DHCD, which is the State Agency Department of Housing and Community Development, they have been tasked and designated by the state to review those applications as well as award, and they track status, meaning project completion information. DHCD and Brightspeed agreed to an MOU, and I'll get to performance concerns momentarily. So REC, none of this really happens without power providers. For example, Firefly is a subsidiary of CVEC, Central Virginia Electric Cooperative, which is more known in Central Virginia. But again, you're using that electric infrastructure, which makes sense. That's how you electrified rural America years ago. But REC is working in partnership with Firefly to perform make-ready work on the REC infrastructure, which in turn will allow Firefly to deploy their fiber network. REC recently mailed letters to areas within Madison County to notify customers that the fiber project has been divided into 5 service zones. And you can see that update on that map if you go to our website link. But I thought it was important if folks who live in areas of that project receive letters that be aware of it. So you get a letter doesn't mean drop to your house happens tomorrow, but they're making you aware that this address where this letter went to is going to be part of this project, whether it's, say, it's Pratt's or Decapolis, and you can see that on the map depending on where you live. Based on the citizen's address and letters notified, that's where I'd stated the service zone they are located in would determine what project or timeline to be served. So again, use our website. There's a link there to get to that, and that's online with the board packet. Brightspeed, I just talked about, was awarded as part of that grant for that Wolftown Hood area. They have yet to provide us with project cover maps. I have spoke to Ms. Sherwood, who was the signatory for Brightspeed on that MOU with Dr. Holmes. I have a draft letter that I've sent to the county attorney just recently. He will review. At the board's pleasure, I'd like to send that letter to DHC, basically making the case that we are concerned with non-compliance and non-performance of the MOU between Brightspeed and DHCD. That project is scheduled to be completed by December of 2024. You may recall the project Gantt chart, or they call it critical method path, I think, CMP schedule. It lays out completions, first quarter, second quarter, so forth. It's not just hurry up and do it at the end. This is the performance. Ms. Sherwood, to her credit, told me she would get me in touch with a gentleman who's the point of contact in the Virginia region to get me the information, because I believe it's critical, just like we have the Firefly information. We need to be able to show the board as well as the citizens, what is this other project, am I being served or not? So those are the two active projects, one being a little non-active, and we wish to address that. So I'm happy to send that letter pending approval from legal, just to demonstrate Madison County's high concerns of them not meeting. And what that could happen is, let's say they terminate the MOU. By the MOU, that gets put back into Firefly's project, but what that causes delay. And that causes delay to the citizen, which was what we shared earlier on with Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission as well as the HCD, that the further we allow this to go on to approve this MOU, the longer the delay to the citizen, which is ultimately all of our concerns. I don't want to forget, I had a citizen request that's in the Etland area. I'll give a brief update there. As you know, part of that original VATI grant, the other RDOF challenge area was by Chantel. That was the northern part of the county, so think Etland, think Nethers, those regions of the county. Chantel, later after we found out they were backing out of Rappahannock County, we requested a meeting with them, and later they informed us they were backing out and waiving their challenge. We went back through the last VATI grant and put that area in. Ultimately, we did not reach approval of that grant. We believe next month we will see folks to talk about the next round of VATI. There'll be a presentation to the board. I strongly encourage the board, like last year, apply for it again. There's VATI money and then there's BEAD money. The VATI money comes through the state. There's less, not that you shouldn't have performance metrics or auditing of the monies and the service provided, but the BEAD money is going to be definitely more strings. That's federal money. Definitely, I recommend the VATI approach when it comes back around. We believe that'll be next month. So Madison County has not given up. Staff has not given up. I think Ms. Gardner, she was lead on this before I came about, and continues to assist very appreciatively. So that's the update for that region. When we hear universal coverage, we want that for Madison. And right now, we don't have that either for a non-performing ISP, or we haven't had a grant award. And that's key for the public to know. The grant award makes this possible for the locality, because there is, in my opinion, I don't speak for the board, that's a high task to ask a board to commit local dollars. For example, the RISE project was $25 million. The locality was responsible for 10% total cost of that, so that's 2.5. The county was able to do that through the ARPA money that was awarded to the county. That designated all the ARPA. Some counties are spending it on pools and other stuff. Madison County elected to spend it on, use ARPA for broadband. Last year, you also committed $400,000 not to exceed of local dollars, that's not grant fund, of local dollars, to be the match of the, that area in Etland and Nethers. And that was part of the Valley Grant that was not approved last year. So most likely, I may be getting ahead of myself, it may look like a duplicate application, meaning the data that's there, because that hasn't changed, but definitely universal coverage to me, and I'm sure you, means we're going to keep pushing for that area to be covered. So those were my updates. There were some mailings we included just so the general public and the board could see what they look like. We asked for this earlier on from Firefly, just so we're aware of what's going out in the mail, preferably ahead of time. We get a lot of questions, Tracy and Kim both, and Firefly has been able to pinpoint. We get an address, it's uncertain, we shoot them an email, generally within 24 hours or less, we get a response back either, yes, that's covered, or it's so close, we'll include that as a regular service drop. So
All right.
we want that same response from all broadband.
Would everybody like, Jonathan, to send a letter to Brightspeed and try to get them to do something?
Yes.
Everybody gung ho?
This would be the DHCD.
Addressing Brightspeed.
Yes, sir.
And then, yeah, that's been the concern from the start. The Firefly people are so responsive, and Brightspeed won't tell us anything. So let's see what we can do. That work?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions, comments on the update?
No, sir.
All right. Special event for public lands.
Yes, sir. Annually, there are a couple of free events or fee-free events into the park. So when we have that, certainly we want to make the public and the board aware. There was a press release that for Shenandoah National Park, they will celebrate their 30th annual National Park Lands Day on September the 23rd. There's a 3-day period that will commemorate this between September 22nd and 24th. The entry fees to the park will be waived on Saturday, September the 23rd. So that's information for the board and to the public.
Questions, comments on this one? All right. Back to public comment.
Mr. Chairman, the last item that Supervisor Hoffman raised was a Christmas luncheon. And
Well, we just need to set a date.
December 25th.
I think December 15th would be good.
what day?
The 15th.
Is everybody's
15th is
calendar
the third
booked up
Thursday.
on the 15th already?
Is the fire, you by chance privy to, do you know if the firehouse is?
I'd have to call her.
Is everybody fine with the 15th pending firehouse's availability?
Yep.
Your schedule permits?
Yeah, there's no dot there. Yeah.
Good, that's big. Ms. Hoffman, are you gonna ramrod this? You do such a good job every year, and you don't wanna leave it to, frankly, any of us. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will.
Got a power of
15th of Friday.
persuasion.
You do a good job, Ms.
I'm a
Hoffman.
backhand.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
I'll contact her tonight.
Thank
See
you
if the
very much.
firehouse is available.
That work?
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Hoffman capturing that.
Yeah, she does a great job. Good. Thank you. All right, public comment. Yes, sir.
The link for the Firefly. So Etlin's not included, correct?
At this time, correct.
So when you go to the link and you put your address in, it says, yes, put your address in and we'll get to you back when we have service for you. And what about Banco and Syria? Are they included?
That area is where we're trying to get in the next round of batting, which was put in last time, so that would be Syria, Etland, and so
You guys
forth.
said it would be, and it wasn't. I know it's very difficult for you guys. We appreciate you working for broadband for the county. Now, for economic development, the faster we get broadband in this area, the more businesses. I have 2 businesses. I have a small hobby business and I have an engineering business. So I'm at odds with trying to do my business where I live in Etland. So I have to commute out of the county to do my business, which is very cost for me. So I basically have to commute and go somewhere else, whether it's the town, I have to pay for services or whatever, but the more you get broadband, to the citizens, the more economic development you're gonna have. So you guys are difficult challenge. But Firefly, you go, you put my address in, it says, okay, you're on the list, just as a FYI.
Let's do that. What's your list, Mr. Winhoff?
I'm an older address, which is messed up, so it's Syria, but use the Kirby 603 Leathers Lane. And I've already registered them. I registered myself as Syria. I registered a couple of our neighbors, and you go to Firefly, and it says, sure. And you go through it, put your email address in, and they said, we'll get to you when we can. We never received any rec mail if we were included.
What internet do you have up on the hill now, Mr. Lenoir?
Well, I started with HughesNet, and it stinks.
Yeah.
I got a T-Mobile MiFi. It was okay, but the trees and the leaves mess it up.
Yeah.
So I just went to Viasat. Very, very, very expensive, and it's just like HughesNet.
Yeah, it didn't work at
And
all.
I'm waiting 2 years for my Starlink.
You can't get Virginia broadband up there?
The Kirby's have it, and it stinks.
The Starlink, because I know a person in Etland has that, and of course, they were on the waiting list long. They just got it, I think, 2 months
It's
ago.
working fast.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with that is, up where we live, trees everywhere, I would have to spend $4,000 to cut down all the trees. And that's why I live where I do, because of the trees.
Let him check and would,
So just as an FYI.
I appreciate
when you
that.
do that, it says you're on the list.
Okay.
So I did it for the Kirby's, I did it for myself, and I did it for 2 other neighbors that are elderly up there.
I appreciate that. We will get that corrected. I'll reach out to them
Well,
tomorrow.
we appreciate all you guys doing. It's a difficult task we all have.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Yes, sir.
But still, it's nice to sit there with James.
Other yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just sit here?
Yeah, let's give you a microphone or something. Yeah, thank you.
You were saying that you had difficulty last time you put the transfer station request for proposal. What was the problem with doing that?
Nobody bid on it
Okay, why do you think that
because
is?
we're too small
So,
and far removed.
okay. So, if that happens again, if you decide not to put it out for proposals, is there any way to amend the contract, or do you have to automatically renew? Can you make any changes, or can you try to correct any problems? Because there are other issues with the transfer station that I haven't talked about that affect a lot of people. And as a matter of fact, the contract itself stipulates that Updike will help the county with public education, and they have sort of refused to do that. So is there a chance to make any additions or changes to the contract if we go with Updike again?
Hannon,
If we go with Updike again? Well, in the sense that it's an automatic renewal with what we do now, that contract. We're probably in a friendly place as possible to ask them for information regarding things like plastic, and for any other services that we're trying to accomplish through them. So,
Did you say friendliest place?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
and if we know over the years, periodically we have citizens' questions on different things. And some of that is going to be proprietary, I'm sure. But I know you've been corresponding at this point with Mr. Weekly. Questions and concerns and stuff, send some to him, and he seems to get pretty good results on a lot of things.
Do you think you got good results on that?
I think there's some room for improvement, but part of that is, and I believe on the 10th, let's see what he brings, but, and I appreciate Ms. Squire providing additional resources to reach out. Someone who's I guess I would refer to as a leading expert in recycling at another location to see if we can improve the area and get that information out there, not only from Ms. Squire, but just on our website in general. So yes, that is a provision in the existing contract. That's an area that I think we can improve in. And I think it's an area we can discuss, and if you have questions on the 10th.
If the county website is supposed to provide information about some of these issues, and it's either out of date or incomplete or incorrect at this point, and I know that Mr. Weekly's aware of that and that can be corrected. But it can't be corrected if we can't get the information from our contractor to provide to the public. So I just want to make that point and hope that there'll be some kind of room to make some kind of changes for our benefit so that, I mean, I understand we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because nobody wants to do this. But, and I know that we want to keep it civil. I'm not suggesting that we do otherwise, but there's some things that really, I mean, at a minimum, we should be able to have information about. Thank you.
I got to while I'm sitting here, and I'm sorry, this is taking forever tonight, it seems like. You mentioned in your previous comment, Ms. Squire, that there were 7 classes of recyclables, and some items you knew were not recyclable, but we are saying we are recycling them. If they are not recyclable, how would we go about recycling them?
Well,
Or an example of such?
okay. So take, for example, plastic clamshell containers. They're the ones that
What is that?
blueberries, salads, restaurant food, stuff like that. They are number 1 plastic. Just because it has a number doesn't mean it's recyclable. And very few municipalities actually recycle those because they're, even though they're number 1 PET plastic, they are different than like water bottles, soda bottles, and because of the way that they're produced. So it's very difficult to sort them out from other plastics. So other municipalities generally ask that they not, or they require that you don't put them in there. People do anyway. It's called aspirational recycling. So you think that you should be able to recycle something, so you put it in the recycling. Sometimes that can keep the good stuff from being recycled because it's contaminating it. That's what I was trying to find out about because I don't want to be putting stuff in there that's not being recycled. And that's what I can't find out about. I know that we do not get plastics 1 through 7 recycled because even Fairfax and other more, up-to-date municipalities and people who pay a lot more money don't even have that.
Sure.
But it would be nice to know which ones those are, so we don't waste our time and money. And I also have concern because.
I'm sorry, can I ask a clarifying question there?
Sure.
What are you, if you know 1 through 7 is not recycled, what are you trying to find out?
What really is being recycled? If it's not recycled.
You mean of other products, aluminum and glass, or?
Aluminum and glass are pretty good. Cardboard, I've heard some issues about whether or not the loads are wet. And our cardboard containers at the transfer station are all open. I'm not sure whether that's a problem or not. I've heard different things about that. I mean, it would be nice to be able to ask him questions when he comes. Is that going to be allowed? Are we going to?
Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. I wish I could answer it in a more positive way, but I mean, it is a maybe type of deal. Some of the specifics, though, I mean, are much more, I mean, you're talking about like blueberry things, and I guess now we'll get in touch with Carl and see what he says about blueberry things.
No, it's not blueberry things. It's lots of things.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things in those containers.
Yeah.
And what happens to them, if they can be sorted out, is they go to what's called a waste-to-energy plant where they're incinerated and
Yeah.
they generate electricity, which is great.
Yeah.
But we're probably paying the recycling rate for having them hauled off of our transfer
Yeah.
station. And then I don't know how much of it actually is recycled, but that's the rate that we're paying.
Sure.
So.
Going down the Cato Institute's pathway. The Cato Institute, it's a Republican think tank, and DC is against recycling based on the costs that are associated with it.
Right.
But no,
I think it's
we can get some
changing. I mean,
answers.
the waste to energy is,
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Turner is going to bring up, and this is good dialogue because it may be information that you're looking for. We did go an update, and I thank Ms. Squire for making us aware there's some 2016 date. DEQ only requires 4 years update. We did get CHA to give us the information from 2015 to present, so we have our recycling rate. what's on the screen, and I just went back and pulled their recent invoice. One, I was looking at the disposal costs, a lot of stuff we just talked in the contract, and I do see where they list some descriptions of tonnage of what was removed. Now, that doesn't get into the numbering of plastics, but it does give an idea of cardboard, glass, and aluminum. So if that is some information that's getting us in a positive direction of answering some of Ms. Squire's questions, we can look at a way of capturing that. I know that's an invoice, so there may be a way where we can pull that out, or if that's sufficient, but that shows what we paid, but what has been sent out of our transfer station, which means it's been taken by Updike to be processed or disposed, meaning the regular trash, which you see above at 186.92, or the other, the cardboard, glass, aluminum, and so forth, as you see listed below. But I don't know if that answers your question. Does that help seeing some that is being recyclables?
Yeah, I'd like to, if I could get a copy of that. The thing is, how much stuff are we sending off to be recycled that's really just not being recycled, but we're paying for it to be recycled? You know, like for Fairfax County, they don't say plastics 1 through 7. They say jugs and water bottles or soda bottles. They're very specific because, I mean, that's just the information I wish we could have for the people in this county. What you should actually be putting in here. Right now, what's in there is incorrect and problematic, I think.
Okay. All right, thank you. And you're gonna get her a copy of some invoices?
Yes.
Got to.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, regarding questions, why don't you send your questions in to Jonathan, he can compile them and we can ask questions.
She has been doing that, so it's not, and I want to be fair and not say this, both Ms. Squires present, not, she has presented questions. I think Ms. Powell has presented some questions as well. It's getting a timely response. And it seems like, I think, by him giving, sometimes I have to delegate, the last response may be quicker, but generally it's the length of time to get response, but as well as maybe getting the detailed information that she's looking for. Again, I understand maybe some of it is proprietary. I think the concern there is not, I'm going to paraphrase here, giving away the secrets of Company X is taking 2-liter bottles at 2 cents per bottle, whatever. But certainly the rates that I showed you above, one, our annual recycling rate that's on the screen, as well as what's leaving in tonnage as far as metal or plastic, we get that monthly. I found out that's actually in our invoicing, so we will start scanning that every month, but we have the hard copies on file that goes back many years in the finance office, so we'll start with the breakdown that's on the invoices, and I believe between the 10th and any, we can bring forth to the board the specific questions Ms. Squire has asked, and maybe if you all want to put forth those questions, just put them out there to see if you can get. So it's evolving. I think let's see where the 10th gets us. Certainly by showing that information invoice is helpful to see if there is some usable data already there. And I think it's a work in progress to see if we can get the information out there and not only share it with one member, but everybody.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for us to know the correct items to put in the correct units. That's basically what it is.
Okay.
So I'm asking what is actually recycled.
okay. Thank you. All right, any other public comment? People chat, hitting us up on the online platform? No, not a one. That's the way it works.
15th is
15th's good. We're doing Christmas on the 15th. Great, keep your calendars open. All right, thank you. Anybody else have anything? What would you like to do?
move to adjourn.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Make you miss the 45-minute meeting.
Every time he tells me it's gonna be a 45-minute meeting, it lasts 2 hours.
I'm telling you.
You've lost the privilege to predict that.
No, we did well the last one.